Welcome to my Avatar The Last Airbender complete draft guide. I like draft guides, and hopefully, this will help you draft and do pre releases better. A couple disclaimers. Disclaimer number one, I have never seen the show, so I will be pronouncing character names wrong. All I know is Secret Tunnel, and I think the main character's name is Aang, and the Fire Nation attacks. Another disclaimer, I've not played with these cards. At the end of the video, I'm going to do a sample draft and talk my way through it, but this is just all my opinion off of reading the cards off of the Wizards website. I will be going over the commons and uncommons that I think are worth drafting in each color, the different new mechanics, and the different two-color pairs and what they should be trying to get up to. So, hopefully this will be a good guide. Going into the first new mechanic, we have airbending. So, airbending is worded on cards. It'll say airbend target creature or airbend target non-land permanent. So, to airbend something, you exile it, and as long as that card remains exiled, its owner may cast it by paying 2 generic. So if you airbend your own expensive creature, you can cast it again for cheaper and get ETBs or do some weird shenanigans. And if you airbend your opponent's stuff, it's kind of a tempo loss where they have to spend 2 to get it back on the battlefield, during their turn. I think this is an interesting mechanic. It's kind of just bouncing or foretelling. It's a weird combo of all of that, but it plays very differently with expensive cards and non-expensive cards. If you airbend a 2-drop, it's the same pretty much as bouncing it, but if you airbend a 10 mana card, you're almost just giving them ETB opportunities again. So this one is going to take some playing to understand how good it is, but that is the new mechanic in white. So going into some of the better white cards in the set that are commons and uncommons that I'm excited about, there's Instant Lesson that untaps 2 creatures and gives them +2 until end of turn. Normally, I'm not big on combat tricks like this, but it's a lesson, and there's a lesson theme in the set. And also in red, the mechanic firebending adds a lot of mana in your combat phase. We'll get to that. But casting combat tricks, I think, is going to be much easier than normal. So I think this is a really good one to be casting off of your excess mana. The Water Tribe Rallier is just a 2-mana 2/2, which is good. But then it has an ability to draw cards by paying 5. And that 5 can be discounted, pretty much like Convoke is a good way to think about Waterbend. But already being a 2-mana 2/2 is good, and then being able to draw cards later in the game is good. Glider Staff is interesting because usually your equipments that come in are putting you behind on tempo. Your opponent has a creature, you play an equipment, your opponent's hitting you. But if you airbend your opponent's 2-drop, for example, they have to play it again, and then you can play a 4-drop and be stable. So I think that's interesting. I think flying is pretty good in this set. There wasn't too much flying. So I think this is going to be a good way to break through board stalls. And again, the airbend on it is really good tempo-wise in limited. Airbending tokens gets rid of them, and I think that that is also going to be super relevant. The Water Tribe Captain is just, we've seen this many times in recent years, where it's just a 2-mana 2/2, or in this case a 3-mana 3/3, and you can just pump mana into it and pump your entire team. White's kind of sub-strategy is going wide, and so if you're going to go wide and you just pump up your team, this seems like a good way to do it. Airbending Lesson, I think, might be the best way to airbend in the set. You airbend anything and draw a card at instant speed. Like I said, red makes you mana in combat, so you can do it there. You can do it on your opponent's turn. It kind of gives me like Reprieve vibes. I think that's the 3-mana bounce something draw card, and I think that card's great. So this is just another 3-mana pretty much bounce something, draw a card. Super good. I'll be drafting lots of airbending lessons. And the last kind of just standard good, common or uncommon in white that I wanted to talk about is Xiong's Deserters. I don't know how to pronounce that. But when it enters, put a 1/1 counter on a creature. So, its floor is a 2 mana 2/3. But moving the counters around seems good. You can airbend it and have it come back in and put a counter on something else. But just having the floor of being a 2 mana 2/3 with a counter on it seems really good. But I think it's one of those nuts and bolts cards that really helps you out. So white's sub-theme, like I said, is going wide. So keep that in mind when looking at cards. Going forward on good commons and uncommons, these are kind of the removal spells in white, and there's a bunch. So we have a 3 mana 3/3 that removes something until it leaves the battlefield. That's a very good effect to have always, so I would value that highly. We have a pacifism effect, can't attack or block, and then you can, late game, pay 5, get rid of the creature entirely, and make a 1/1, so that just is upside on already a good effect. Airbender's Reversal, I think is probably one of the better removal spells in the set. You can destroy an attacking creature if that's what you need, or you can airbend a creature you control, so save it from a removal spell, or do some ETB things again, or all sorts of different stuff. But just having the optionality is really good. I think it's going to play a lot better than it reads, and I think it reads pretty well. Over on the right, Sand Bender Storm. Instant speed. Again, instant is so important in this set because you can generate mana in the middle of combat. So you can either destroy a creature with power 4 or greater, which is nice, or just Earthbend 3, which is, more complicated than this, but it's kind of make a 3/3. So that's a really good buyout for these types of effects. We see modal spells with destroy a creature with power 4 or greater a lot, but usually the second mode isn't as good as make a 3/3. So I think this is going to be a premier piece of removal, especially as a common. Curious Farm Animals I put on here because it can destroy an artifact or enchantment. There are a good number of enchantments in this set. So just having a 1/1, it'll die and gain you some life, and it can blow up your opponent's stuff. Seems good. Team Avatar is interesting. I think the first ability is fine, where whenever a creature attacks alone, it gets +X, where X is the number of creatures you control. We saw a card like this in, I think, Ravnica Allegiance, where all of your creatures had Exalted. And that's pretty much what this is. It just lets you have 6 creatures, and you attack with 1, and it's a 7/7, and that's great. But then, on top of that, you can pay 3 and discard it, and it deals damage to a creature equal to the number of creatures you control. So, if you're ahead or at parity, you can just start slamming by playing this enchantment. And if you're kind of behind, maybe you can shoot an important creature. This card's interesting because it's only good if you already have creatures in play. It's not going to save you, whereas, some of the other removal spells, you can have nothing in play and still kill something. But I think this card's very interesting. And then lastly, Razor Rings. Just deals 4 damage to an attacking or blocking creature, and then you might be able to gain some life if XX damage is dealt. So, if you're playing white, look out for these. If you're playing against white, it's important. They have 2 different ways to deal damage to attacking creatures. Both of them cost 2. So keep that in mind. If you're attacking into 2 white mana, they might have one of these tricks. Moving forward, I'm going to shout out some of the best rares and mythics in each color. These are the types of cards that could convince me to splash or go white. So South Pole Voyager, whenever this or another allies, you gain a life, and if it's the second time it resolves, you draw a card. You play this, or there's lots of creatures in white that come with a body, and both are allies. So you just play a 3-drop that comes with a 1/1, and you draw a card. Seems super good. The floor is just a 2 mana 2/2 that gains you a life, but it is very much better than that. I talk about ally count later, but there are 67 allies in the set, so that's very many. Um, Appa, it's a 3/4 flash flying. You know, that's already great for 4 mana, just in limited. When it enters, you airbend any number of non-land permanents you control, so you can get really fancy with that, save your stuff, get some ETBs, and whenever you cast a spell from exile, you make a 1/1. So it combos with itself, a 1/1 ally, so that'll, you know, synergize with the South Pole Voyager, and it also just gives you tons of value, on top of just being, you know, a Restoration Angel. Um, so obviously it's a mythic for a reason, draft it if you see it. United Front, you just pour in a bunch of mana and get a bunch of 1/1s, and then you put a counter on everything. So you're really making a bunch of 2/2s and putting counters on the stuff you already have. Even you can just pay white and put a counter on your board, which is fun. Very good card, especially mid to late game. If it was an instant, it'd be really broken. So I'm glad they made it a sorcery. And then lastly, Suki. Other creatures you control get +1/+0. That's insane. So it's a 2/4 for 3, which is already good stats, and then it buffs your team. And whenever another permanent leaves during your turn, you make a 1/1. That only triggers once a turn, but that should happen a lot. You can just attack with a 1/1, let it die and make a new one. You can airbend your own stuff. You know, things die. You can sacrifice clues as part of the set. Lots of things you can do. The black-white sub-theme is kind of sacrifice-focused. So Suki just seems extremely powerful. So I said I would be talking about how many allies are in the set, but I'm going to talk about Master Piandao a little bit. So it's a 4/4 first strike for 5. And when it attacks, you look at the top 4 cards, and you reveal an ally, equipment, or lesson, and put them in your hand. So I just wanted to talk about how many hits there are. So in white, 31 of the 52 cards are either allies or equipments or lessons. And then hits in white or colorless that are not rare is 26 out of the 39, so that's 2/3. So if you're drafting or playing limited, in theory, 2/3 of the cards that you open in your pool are going to be hits for this. Now, that's obviously, if you're drafting, you can specifically draft allies and equipment, or you can specifically avoid them. But in sealed, this is kind of what you'd be expecting. And it's also just a good thing to keep in mind when you're trying to evaluate a card like this. So in the entire set, I counted this out manually. There's 107 out of the 262 are either allies or equipment or lessons, so about 40%. So some set stats, 35 lessons across all the colors, 67 allies, 6/7 joke here, across all the colors, and 5 equipments. That's how we got that 107 figure. So if you were to put in your deck 60% non-lands being a hit, which would be pretty in line with the white and colorless count, you have a 80% chance of finding something when you attack. If you do 40% of non-lands, which would be 10 hits in your deck, you get 70%. And if there are just 6 other hits, I mean, not other, I included this, but if there's 6 hits in your deck, you have about a 50% chance. So I think this card's pretty good. The first strike definitely helps it be able to attack. You know, if you're playing 10 hits, you're having, you know, a 3/4 chance of drawing a card off this. So just keep these in mind. This is a really important step to do when you're trying to evaluate cards like this. So here are some numbers to try to help you figure out if Master is good. I think it is. Last thing I wanted to talk about in white is that there's 2 white rats. One of them is at uncommon, which is crazy, and I think is going to really polarize the draft. So we'll start with talking about Destined Confrontation. It's a 4 mana uncommon. Each player chooses any number of creatures with total power 4 or less, then sacrifices everything else. So if you put out a couple weenies and your opponent has, you know, it already kills all creatures power 5 or greater. So it'll kill all big stuff and kind of leave your opponent with 1 or 2 creatures in play. And if you have a bunch of little creatures, you can kind of play around this. Obviously, if you're casting a Wrath, you know that you're going to be casting it, so you get to build your board state around it. And if you're not playing in white, but you're playing against white, this is a card that I'm fearing, you know. It's just, you got to know what wraths are in the set, and there's a really good one at uncommon and white that you just need to be aware of. Don't overcommit to the board with big creatures. Destined Confrontation is going to be a big player in this draft. And then white has another 4-mana wrath called Avatar's Wrath. Choose one creature and airbend all the other ones. So you get to keep your best thing. Everything else gets bounced and costs 2. And until your next turn, your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands. So what that actually means is your opponent can't cast the spells you just airbended. So if you guys both have a board, let's say you have a 4/4 in play, you Avatar's Wrath, pick up everything other than your 4/4. You get in for 4 because there's no other creatures on the board. Then, next turn, your opponent can only cast things from their hand. Then on your turn, let's say they played another creature. You can maybe remove that creature, get in with your 4/4 again, redeploy all of your stuff first. Then your opponent can play stuff. So this card seems really powerful, especially in board stalls. More so than Wraths usually are when you already have a developed board. So just be aware of this. I think this is one of the better rares to draft in the entire set. And then there are also 3 black Wraths, but we'll talk about those when we get to black. So 5 Wraths in the set. Just be aware. Don't overcommit to the board. Moving on to blue. Blue has Waterbending. Waterbend is a cost, and usually it's either an additional cost or it's kind of an activated ability on a card. And it's a lot like Convoke, where you can pay mana or you can tap untapped creatures. The difference between it and Convoke is that you can also tap untapped artifacts. So it's better than Convoke. But it's really just pay mana, do something, and you can tap creatures and artifacts to help pay that cost. So I think blue looks really good, so there's more cards to talk about. Benevolent River Spirit's a 4/5 for 2, which, you know, seems busted, but you see there's an additional cost of Waterbending 5. So the floor is a 7-mana 4/5 flying ward 2. Wow, you know, that is a threat. But if you have 3 things in play and you can play this for 4 mana, you know, it's stable. Like, you're fine tapping out to play this because it blocks so well. A big part of Waterbend is that, you know, to cast these things, you are tapping your board and leaving yourself open to attacks. But this is a 4/5 ward 2 scries. You know, Benevolent River Spirit is super good, especially, you know, paired with white. White has the go wide. Definitely draft that card highly. Forecasting Fortune Teller is a 2-mana 1/3, so it blocks and stabilizes. And when it enters, make a clue. So you draw a card, you have a body. Red makes the mana at instant speed, so the clue's good with that. Black likes sacrificing things, the clue's good with that. And it's just, you know, it blocks your 2/2s and your 3/1s and stuff. So good, just run-of-the-mill card. Giant Koi, all colors have a cycler that costs 6, and it land cycles for 2. I don't talk about all of them, because not all of them are good. This one I think is. So 6-mana 5/7 is fine, and you can Waterbend 3 and make it unblockable. Late in the game, Waterbend 3 is kind of just pay 3 mana, you know. Pay 3, unblockable 5/7, it's just a clock. The turn you played, it's a great blocker. So I think that might be the best land cycler. The Waterbending Scroll is interesting. I'm going to have to see how it plays, but 2 mana for an artifact that doesn't do anything. Then you can pay 6 and draw a card, but it costs less for the number of islands you control. So let's say you control 4 islands, you know, mid-game. Pay 2, draw a card. It's fine. No, if you control 6 islands, it's free. So I'm interested in Waterbending Scroll. Serpent of the Pass. The red-blue sub-theme is kind of just casting non-creature spells, and then lots of colors care about lessons. So if there's lessons in your yard, this spell has flash. We decided there's 35 lessons in the set. And then it costs 1 less for each non-creature, non-land in your graveyard, which is really the clause I care about. You know, let's have that number be 2, you know. 5 mana 6/5 is good, you know. And anything on top of that is just very good. You know, if there are 3 lessons, that means this will cost 4 and it'll have flash. So Serpent seems really good. Iguana Parrot, 2/2 flying vigilance prowess, just keyword suit. Seems good. You're going to be casting non-creature spells, especially if you're also in red. 2/2 flyer for 3 is already like a fine thing. Vigilance is good upside. Prowess makes it scary to block. Definitely think that'll do some work. Invasion Submersible. It's a vehicle, which is interesting. It's 3 mana, 0/0. What? When it enters, you bounce something. So not airbend, but actually just return it to hand. So, Mana War is a good card. You play this, you bounce something, you've stabilized. This is a fine turn 3 play. You're not going to start getting beat down. And then Exhaust Waterbend 3. So at some point you can pay 3 or tap some creatures, and it becomes a 3/3. Fine. It comes in, it bounces something, and eventually you pay 3 and have a 3/3 forever. It's not crew every turn. It just becomes a 3/3. I think this card is definitely fine on rate. Katara is a 2/3 for 3. At the end of your turn, put a 1/1 counter on it if it's tapped. That is fine. But it has Waterbend 6, draw a card. So you can do that at instant speed. At the end of your opponent's turn, you have 2 mana and 4 creatures on tap. They didn't attack you. Tap, draw a card. Untap. You're double drawing now. I think this might be the best uncommon in the set. Have a couple creatures in play. End of your opponent's turn, every turn. Tap down, draw a card. Tap down, draw a card. Really gets going. And it synergizes with itself because being tapped at the end of your own turn, it can pay into waterbending costs. So if you waterbend it, tapping itself to its ability, you end up putting a counter on it, but then you're tapped down for your opponent to be able to attack. So I don't think that's the best play pattern, but it is something to note. And the last blue card I wanted to talk about is Knowledge Seeker. 2 mana, 2/1 with Vigilance is a perfectly fine floor. And when you draw your second card, put a counter on it, so it gets bigger and more threatening. And when it dies, you make a clue. So just the floor being a 2 mana, 2/1 Vigilance, that when it dies makes a clue, is great. And then if you get it to be a 3/2 or 4/3, you're just as happy as can be. So I think the blue common uncommon suite is a little more powerful than white, but you need whites go wide in order to pay for waterbend. The colors are going to work well together, but blue has some pretty powerful stuff going on. It has a couple cards that care about lessons in your graveyard. Accumulate Wisdom cares if there's 3 or more lessons. The Serpent cares if there's 3 or more lessons. First Time Flyer. No, if there's a lesson in your graveyard, it's a 2 mana, 2/3 flyer, which seems really good. But there has to be a lesson in your graveyard. So between colorless and blue, there's 9 lessons, but one of them's mythic. So there's really 8. But in draft, if you're drafting, you can go out of your way to make sure you get some lessons. We talked about the lesson in the set is 35. There's no odds here because it depends on how you build your deck. Whether or not you'll get one in your graveyard, but blue has this sub-lesson theme. A lot of the colors do, but just keep that in mind when you're drafting. Especially first-time flyer, you might want to prioritize getting some blue lessons, thinking you might draft a couple of these, because the card can be really good. So blue removal seems pretty strong. Interestingly, I think the common removal is better than the uncommon. So we'll start with Honest Work. Comes in, you enchant a creature, you tap it and remove all its abilities and counters, and it becomes a 1/1 that taps for a mana. So we've seen effects like this. But 1 mana, it becomes a little mana dork. I'm going to jump over to the other side, Watery Grasp. It also is 1 mana, enchant a creature. It doesn't untap during its untap step. So it doesn't come in and tap the creature and remove abilities. It will no longer untap. But for 5, you just have them shuffle it back. And it's Waterbend 5. So you can do it, like I said, at your opponent's end step, tap all your creatures, have them shuffle it back. I think that's better than Honest Work, honestly, because you're not giving them a mana dork. You're not giving them a 1/1. You're just tapping it down and eventually shuffling it back. Last couple, Crashing Waves. So it's 2, and you can Waterbend X, and you tap X creatures and distribute 3 stun counters among them. So if you Waterbend 1, it's a 3 mana tap something for 4 turns, that's definitely something for real. But again, you can just pay Waterbend with mana. So if you just pay a total of 5 mana, you're tapping 3 things and putting a stun counter on all of them, and then attacking with your board. It's not quite removal, but it's really good and something to think about. And then Lost Days is an instant and a lesson, so it's good with lesson tribal things, and it's also an instant, so it's good with firebending. And you just put something on the top or bottom of their library, and you make a clue. So you're not going down in card advantage, you're actually going up in card advantage, and it's an instant, and it's a lesson. It's better than these effects. Usually they cost 4, but they don't give you that clue. I value that clue a lot. So keep your eyes out for Lost Days. So this is going to be your blue removal suite. So your blue counterspell suite, I think there might be one more that I just didn't think was very good. So Soka's Haiku. I like this card. I don't know who Soka is. I don't know why they do haikus, but the card is a haiku. So counter target spell, good. Draw a card, then mill 3 cards. Untap target land. So I don't think you're going to make use out of the land, if I'm being honest. Counter, draw. That's a Cryptic Command. So 5 mana Cryptic Command is perfectly fine in limited, in draft when you're not high power. So keep that in mind. It's also a lesson. Get your lesson count up. And then Eloquentia is just quench. It's also a lesson. I guess these are the same character now that I'm looking at it. Cool. But it's a lesson. Counter target spell unless its opponent pays 2. It's aggressively costed. Keep Eloquentia in mind. That'll be floating around a lot. I think it's good to draft, and then just keep it in mind if you're trying to slam a threat and your opponent has up 2 blue. So now going on to the huge bombs. We have Wan Shi Tong Librarian. It's a 1/1 for double blue X as Flash Flying Vigilance. Whoa. When it enters, put X counters on it, then draw half X cards. So I think you want to be playing this for 6 total. So it'll come in as a 5/5 because it'll get 4 counters, and then you'll draw 2. Seems really good. 6 mana, flash it in, block something, draw 2. And you just have a 5/5 flying vigilance. It's great. And the bottom is kind of flavor text in limited. Whenever an opponent searches their library, put a 1/1 counter and draw. That's not going to really come up. So just the body and the draw alone is good. It's a mythic for a reason. Spirit Water Revival. As an additional cast, you may waterbend 6. So super late in the game, you might have 4 creatures and 6 mana. You can make this happen. So the floor is 3 mana, draw 2. Fine. But if you paid 9 waterbendy, you shuffle your hand and graveyard in and draw 7. So Time Twister's good, but it's really good if only you do it. So early in the game, if you're desperate, 3 mana, draw 2, fine. It's divination. Late in the game, refilling all the way up to 7 is game winning. So definitely a good card. And then the Unagi of Kiyashi Island is a 5 mana 5/5 flash. Flash it in, block, you're doing great. Ward Waterbend 4 is pretty big deal. If they want to kill it, they have to tap a bunch of their stuff or pay an extra 4 mana or some combo. So that's good. And whenever an opponent draws their second card, you draw 2 cards. And it has flash, so you can flash it in when they're cracking a clue, draw 2. And its body is good, its ward is good, its ability is good, all around good card. Aggressively costed, so look out for these. And then we're moving on to black. You might be thinking, where's the black intro slide of the new mechanic? Well, black doesn't get a new mechanic because they don't swamp bend in Avatar, I guess. So these are some of the cards I'm excited about. I'm going to run through them a little faster. Black sub-themes are Sacrifice, 5 mana 5/4, Beetle-headed Merchants. When it attacks, you can sacrifice something. If you draw a card and put a counter on it, huge advantage. You might have some clues that you're trying to sacrifice to draw anyway, and you're putting a counter on it. Sacrifice some little white weenies, all sorts of different stuff. Super good card. Fire Navy Trebuchet, 3 mana 0/4. with defender and reach, so it's blocking the flyers. And then when you attack, make a 2/1 with flying. That's tapped and attacking. So that's whenever you attack with anything, which could be the turn this comes in. And then you sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So it combos with all the sacrificey stuff. You get a piece that you get to get in with, and then you can sacrifice that 2/1 to some other effect. And also the things that say, like, whenever you sacrifice, something triggers. This is making something that you sacrifice every turn. This card seems excellent. Azula on the Hunt is a 4-mana 4/3 with firebending. We haven't talked about it yet, but whenever it attacks, you add red, red, and it only lasts till the end of combat. But you can use it for anything you want during combat. And when it attacks, you make a clue. Well, it kind of shows you what to do with that 2 mana. So you lose a life, make a clue, and you make 2 mana. You can use that 2 mana to crack the clue. So it's a 4-mana 4/3 that when it attacks, draws a card. You know, at its quote-unquote floor. If you have better things to do with the mana, go crazy. But that seems really good. Ozai's Cruelty, 3-mana lesson, notably. Deals 2 damage, and they discard 2 cards. The 2 damage is nice. Discarding cards is, like, the 3-mana discard 2 isn't new, and then it's a lesson, so I thought I'd shout it out. Merchant of Many Hats, 2-mana 2/2, you know, block, trade, do whatever you want, and then 3 mana, get it back from your graveyard to your hand. It isn't the world's best thing to be doing. It's an ally. It's you know, a bear with upside. Definitely seems good, especially grindy. You know, late game, you 5 mana, you just keep getting this creature back. Figure out fun combos to do with it. I think that they're all over the set, so watch out for that. Corrupt Court Official, 2-mana 1/1. When it enters, target opponent discards a card. This effect is not new, and the effect, how good it is, depends on the set and how much you're making use of the 1/1 body. And I think this set is making good use of it. There's so many sacrifice synergies that having your opponent discard and then still having the 1/1 sitting around, I think is going to be very good. So I think Corrupt Court Official is just excellent in this environment. Judy, one of many. 2-mana 2/2. You can pay 1, tap, surveil 1. You know, that's already fine. You know, just a bear, and whenever you have extra mana at the end of your opponent's turn, surveil. Great. Then you make a token that's a copy of this creature. And then you sacrifice something. So you can make a token that's a copy of Judy and then immediately sacrifice that token. You know, that. So you're still just paying black and surveilling 1 whenever you want. But if you have Corrupt Court Official, for example, sacrifice that, and now instead of having a 1/1, you have a 2/2 with abilities. You know, eventually, you know, you could have these, the Fire Navy Trebuchet making the 2/1 with flying that is going to go away. Tap Judy, sacrifice the 2/1 flyer, make another Judy, and you're just off to the races. So this card seems very good. It's instant speed. Oh, no, I lied. It's sorcery speed. That makes it much worse. But I still think this is definitely a good engine piece. I thought it was instant speed when I put it on here. I thought it was really busted. It's still very good. Azula Always Lies, Skullduggery. It's a 1 and a black for target creature gets -1 and put a 1/1 counter. We've seen it before where it's just +1 until end of turn, but I think it costs 1 less. That card was a real blowout. I think this card will also be a blowout. It's also a lesson, so lesson triggers, lesson in graveyard, all that good stuff. But you probably end up saving one of your creatures, killing an opponent's creature. The counter stays around. Excellent. June Bounty Hunter, 2-mana 2/2, already fine. Can't be blocked if you've drawn 2 or more cards this turn. The blue-black theme is drawing 2 cards, so clues help with that. Blue has some draw stuff, so if you've done that, it's a 2/2 unblockable. Great. And then you can pay 1, sacrifice another creature, make a clue, activate only during your turn. So that's just another great thing to do with, like, Corrupt Court Official. You know, pay 1, sack it, get a clue, crack the clue, this becomes unblockable. It all kind of fuels itself. Kind of a 1-mana or a 1-card engine. Definitely look out for it. And again, like, you can be sacrificing the Trebuchet tokens. You can be sacrificing the Merchant of Many Hats that can come back. So lots of good things to think about here. Lastly, we have Hog Monkey. 3-mana 3/2, fine, you know. At the beginning of combat, something with a counter gets menaced, you know. upside, if that comes up, and then you can pay 5 and put 2/1/1 counters on it. So I think it's just run of the mill good. Not everything needs to be a little combo. Just a 3-mana 3/2 that has upside that can get bigger as the game goes on. So look out for that at the common spot. Going into the black removal, they got a whole bunch. So Epic Downfall, exile target creature with mana value 3 or greater. Sorcery speed, sadly, but removal's removal. 2 mana, kill something big, fine. Swamp Snare Trap, 3 mana, but it costs 1 less if it's a creature with flying. Enchanted creature gets -5, -3. It might not kill it, but it's definitely not attacking anymore. Let's say it's a 4/4. It's technically still alive, but it might as well be dead. Deadly Precision, as an additional cost, pay 4 or sacrifice an artifact or creature. So, as we mentioned, there's so much fodder hanging around. It's kind of Black's theme. Or you can just pay 5 and destroy target creature. Perfectly fine. Heartless Act is getting a reprint, so it's a 2-mana instant, destroy a creature with no counters, or remove 3 counters from something. Usually just destroy something with no counters. So, it's a good card, always has been. And then last one, Sold Out. 4-mana instant, exile target creature. I remember when in Ixalan they printed 2 double black exile target creature or planeswalker, and the world lost its mind. It was like 4 mana instant speed exile, and that was double black. It didn't have the extra upside on here, and the upside is if that creature was dealt damage, you make a clue. So, figure out how to make that good. You don't really need that, but it's great upside to have. If this is ending up drawing you a card, it's just insane. And this is a common. So I would say this is the best piece of removal in the set, other than Heartless Act, which is an uncommon. So that's your black removal package. We talked about the white wraths, and we mentioned that black has some. So Day of Black Sun, X black, destroy each creature with mana value X or less. So, pay X is equal to 4, destroy all the little stuff. Pay X is equal to 6, destroy everything. Just something to keep in mind. I don't think the card's crazy good, but something to keep in mind if you're ahead. Don't overcommit to the board. Ruinous Waterbending is a lesson, 3 mana. You may waterbend 4. All creatures get -2, and if you did waterbend, whenever a creature dies, you gain a life. I don't think this is that good. It's worth knowing about, especially if you're playing in white and have a bunch of little creatures, white-red. So keep it in mind, but we see these 3 mana -2 effects. They're not great in draft. I will probably not be casting this card very much. And then the last Black Wrath is a mythic, but it's important to know about. So 6 mana, destroy all creatures. Comes in. You thought you were winning, you're not winning anymore. Choose a card name, search opponent's graveyard hand for 4 of those, and exile. That's not super relevant. And then it turns into a 5/5 with some abilities. But just keep in mind that on 6, a black deck could wrath you. Definitely, if you see this card in a pack, draft it. It's very good. But don't overcommit against black decks with lots of mana. White's wraths are better, but black has 3. The couple black cards I wanted to talk about, the Phoenix Fleet Airship. 4 mana 4/4 vehicle, so you got to crew it for 1, that's too bad. At the beginning of your end step, if you sacrificed a permanent, create a copy. So if you crack a clue, you make another one, and then that vehicle also has the ability. So the next time, if you crack something, you make 2 more, and eventually you'll just have a ton of them. Well, it has that in mind. If you control 8 or more of these, they're all always crewed. So 1 doubles to 2, doubles to 4, doubles to 8. So 3 turns of cracking clues gets you 8 4/4s with flying. It's insane. And even before that, it's a 4 mana 4/4 flyer with crew 1, which is perfectly fine. So Phoenix Fleet Airship, broken. Draft it if you see it. Obsessive Pursuit, it's a 2 mana enchantment. When it enters, and at the beginning of your upkeep, lose a life and make a clue. So it comes in with 1, which is huge. And whenever you attack, put counters on a creature where it's the number of permanents you sacrifice this turn. And if it's 3 or greater, it gains lifelink. I don't know how often that'll come up in draft, but it's nice to offset the life loss that's going on. So this isn't Phyrexian Arena because you have to pay 2 for each of the clue tokens, but it's still super good in draft. We'll have to see how slow the format is, but the slower it is, the better this card is. So these are the 2 black rares and mythics I'm like excited about. Firebending. All I know is that the Fire Nation attacks and everything changed. But firebending, whenever a creature with firebending attacks, you add mana equal to the number that it says it firebends, and it stays in your pool during combat and then leaves after that. You won't have it during your second main phase, but you'll have it during, declare attacks, declare blocks, damage, end combat. All those steps will happen. A lot of cards here to talk about. I think red is probably the best color. So 3 mana, 2/3, firebending 1, Jiang the Deserter. Exhaust 3, which again you're gonna have red mana floating around because of firebending. Put a 1/1 counter on it and copy your next lesson. So you can do it in the middle of combat, make it a 3/4, and your next lesson is doubled. Lesson might be a shock 2 things, or kill something big. Amazing, just super high floor. 2/3 for 3 with firebending 1 is already fine. Combustion Man is a 5 mana 4/6. When it attacks, destroy target permanent unless they have Combustion Man deal damage to them equal to its power. So they're either taking 4 or they're letting you blow something of theirs up. Once they get on low life, you're just going to get to shoot things every time this attacks. I don't think it's like insanely broken. I think it's good, and I think it's going to be fun. So I'll be drafting Combustion Man. My Jaded Edge is a 2 mana 1/3 with prowess. That's fine. Like, we've seen sets where like that card gets printed. And then Exhaust for 3, again, firebending, you're going to have tons of mana. Put a double strike counter on my. That is really good. A 1/3 prowess double strike for 2 and just an exhaust. You can do it at your opponent's end step. You can do it mid-combat. Really good. And if you have this firebending mana floating, you get to wait for them to make blocks. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to exhaust Jiang instead of Mai or whatever. And you're just... Seems very hard to play around. Mai seems really good. Cave of 2 Lovers costs 4. Comes in, makes 2 1/1s. Fine. Second one, you go get a mountain and put it in your hand. Fine. So you've made 2 1/1s and gotten a mountain. And then at the end, you Earthbend 3, which is kind of just making a 3/3. So a 3/3, 2 1/1s, and draw a mountain. It's just good value for 4. It's slow. You get your biggest creature at the end. So maybe you're getting beat down, but you can chump with the 1/1s. It just seems good on rate. Fire Nation Raiders, a 4 mana 4/2. Not the best stats, but good. And when it enters, if a creature attacked this turn, make a clue. Red is the aggressive color. You will hopefully have attacked with a creature. So it's a 4 mana 4/2 that comes in and makes a clue. Fine. I value clues. Drawing cards is great. Super good common. 2 mana 2/2 Fire Sages. Firebending 1. Great. Find things to do with the mana. Oh, look. It has things to do with the mana. For 3, you put a 1/1 counter on it. You can do that instant speed. Dump all your firebending mana into it. Dump mana into it at the end of your opponent's turn. And it's just a 2 mana 2/2 with firebending 1, which is just already so good. Treetop Freedom Fighters. 3 mana 2/1. Uh-oh. It has haste. And when it comes in, make a 1/1. And the 1/1 is an ally, and it is an ally. So the red-white theme, I think, is allies. And just kind of going wide and being aggressive. We've seen the 3 mana 2/1 that comes with the 1/1 lots of times. It's always good. This one has haste, and it has relevant creature types. So definitely look out for this. It'll probably be a card that people don't realize how much work it's actually doing. Tiger Dilla, 2 mana 4/3. What? This creature can't attack or block unless there's another creature with power 4 or greater that you control. Green-red is trying to do this power 4 or greater stuff. If you have 2 Tiger Dillos, they turn each other on. There's lots of cards that have 4 power exactly that I think that they went out of their way to do to turn on these red and green synergies. But a 2 mana 4/3, in theory you can play a 3 mana 4/2 following up. Like turn 2, play Tiger Diller. Turn 3, play a 3 mana 4/2, and you're just doing great. Ty Lee, 3 mana 3/2 with prowess. Great. Then, when it attacks, you pay 1. Again, firebending, you're going to have the 1. When you do, target creature can't block. Super good. Just gets in, uses your firebending mana, lets you be aggressive. Great. Zuko is a 4 mana 4/3 with firebending 3. So you're just going to have tons of mana. You know, every ability on this slide costs 3 or less. So when this attacks, you get to activate one of the abilities that we're looking at here. And then, oh look, it has an ability. Pay 3, exile the top card, you may play it this turn. Insane. It plays into itself, or if you want to do other things with the mana, it's good. Excellent card. War Balloon is a 3 mana 4/3 vehicle with flying. For 1, you can put a fire counter on it. You can do that mid-combat with your firebending mana, yada yada yada. You can also do it at your opponent's end step with your excess mana. And if it has 3 counters on it, it becomes an artifact creature. So it's a 6 mana 4/3, but you get to pay for 3 of it whenever you want. I think that's nuts. I think War Balloon is going to be one of the better win cons in red. Last card I'm going to talk about is Porcupine. It's a 3 mana 2/2, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a 1/1 counter on the creature. So there are prowess creatures going around. Like I said, blue-red is kind of spell slingy. And this one's going to put the counters on it, so it'll end up being, 3/3, 4/4, 5/5, 6/6. Just big threat, but you got to build your deck around it. But it's a common, so get 2 or 3 and build your deck around it and be happy. Going into the red removal package. No, this is not the red removal package. This is the red firebending is a broken mechanic package. So what are you going to do with all this firebending mana? Solstice Revelations is 3. Exile cards until you exile a non-land. You may cast it without paying its mana cost if its mana value is less than the number of mountains you control. If you don't, put it in your hand. So, a lot of words. The floor is 3 mana draw a card at instant speed, which isn't good, except if you have firebending mana floating around, it's fine. You might be able to cast it for free if it costs less than the number of mountains you control. And then it flashes back for 7, which is, again, not something you're super excited about, but it's something to do with your firebending mana. So, Cunning Maneuver, target creature gets +3/+1, make a clue. I think this is going to be one of the scariest cards in the entire set. You attack, you have some firebending mana up, your opponent doesn't know whether to block or not. They decide that they're going to try to trade, you Cunning Maneuver, give it 3/1, make a clue, use firebending mana to crack the clue. You've blown your opponent out. Twin Blades is busted. I remember Embercleave, and it's not Embercleave, but it's close. 3 mana flash equipment. When it comes in, attach it for free, and it gains double strike until end of turn. So it's not double strike trample forever. It's once, but you got the firebending mana. You attack, you flash this in. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and double strike all of a sudden, and you've just blown out your opponent or dealt him an extra 10 damage or something. So, be very afraid of Twin Blades. Fire Nation attacks. Haha, it's like from the show, I think. Aha. 5 mana, make 2 2/2s with firebending. It just fuels itself. And then it flashes back for 9. And 9, that's so many. Well, you have 2 firebending creatures on the board because you've already made them. Fire Nation attacks is really good. And then How to Start a Riot, 3 mana, instant lesson. Target creature gains menace, and all of your creatures get +2 attack. So, again, you just have this mana floating around. You're so advantaged because your opponent has to make decisions before you have to cast your stuff, and your mana's floating around, You have mana and a clue up. They might think you're just going to use the mana to crack the clue, so they block, and then you How to Start a Riot and kill them. Or just whatever it is. All seems really good. All of these instant speed threats work great with firebending. Here's the red removal package. We're talking about a ton of red cards, but it's because I think red is just that much better than the other colors. 2 mana instant firebending, whoa. Deal 2 damage plus the number of lessons in your graveyard to target creature. As a 2 mana instant shock, it's fine. Speaking of 2 mana instant shock, firebending lesson. It's 2 damage to target creature, and you can kick it and deal 5 damage. This is the common instant lesson in red. Insanely good. You're going to want to draft as many of these as you can if you're playing red. They also just have Lightning Strike. Just classic Lightning Strike. 3 damage for 2. Instant speed. And I put those three on top because they're all instant speed, and they're so much better because of firebending. Um, I'm terrified of red. Moving on to Bummy Bash, 4 mana sorcery, womp womp, deals damage equal to the number of lands you control to target creature. So this is a way you can kill bigger things. And then you can destroy target land creature or non-basic land. Land creatures is something that green can do, which we're getting to. And then non-basic land is probably not going to come up in limited. And then Iroh's demonstration. 2 mana sorcery, deal 1 damage to each creature your opponents control, or 4 damage to one creature. Both of those modes are fine. You'll know which one to pick. The optionality is nice, but 2 mana deal 4 to something is probably what you're going to end up doing with this. 3 of these are lessons. All of these are good. Bummy Bash is probably the worst, but red removal definitely seems fine. These are the red rares and mythics I'm excited about. The last Agni Kai seems like it's like a power balance reference, but it doesn't read like that. 2 mana instant fight spell in red. Very interesting. So it's a fight spell at instant speed, so firebending, hooray. And then if the creature is dealt excess damage, add that much red, and then you don't lose unspent red as phases end. So you can do this in combat, do the good stuff, get some more red, and then also all your firebending mana and the mana that this makes is going to go to your post-combat main phase. So it just seems good. I don't know why this card exists, but it seems good. The Legend of Roku is a 4 mana saga. Comes in, you exile the top 3, and you can play them until your next turn. That's fine. Showdown of the Skalds vibe. Second one, you add a mana of any color. That's good to help you cast those spells that you got off the first one. And then you end up flipping into a 4/4 with abilities. I did not put the backside of it up here, but it's good. I promise. Wartime Protester is a 4 mana 4/4 with haste. Great. Whenever an ally enters, put a 1/1 counter on that creature and it gains haste. Great. The red-white theme is kind of allies, like I was saying. Just seems good. Make all your stuff bigger and have haste, and it itself is a fine body with haste. Moving on to green, Ruberg Order. We're getting towards the end before we talk about the multicolored pairs and the lands. Earthbending is the last new mechanic. Whenever you earthbend, you choose a land and you give it that many counters. So if you're earthbend 4, you put 4 counters on a land. Then, an earthbended land, if it would leave the battlefield, so if it dies or is exiled, it returns tapped instead. So you're not going to lose your lands to kill spells or blocking and stuff. So they try to make it less threatening, which definitely makes earthbending as a mechanic better. But you pretty much just turn one of your lands into a creature that's that big. Bunch of cards here to talk about. Ostrich Horse, 3 mana 3/1. When it enters, mill 3 and put a land into your hand if you don't put a counter. So, like I said, red-green kind of sub-theme is having 4 power creatures. So if you don't need a land, this is a 3 mana 4/2. And if you do need a land, it's a 3 mana 3/1 that draws you a card and then trades up in combat, or trades fine. I think the card's very good. We have not seen this effect on a creature of this size before. It's interesting. Moving on to the Boulder. It's 4 mana 4/4. When it attacks Earthbend X, where X is a number of creatures with power 4 or greater. So yeah, 4 mana 4/4, fine. If it attacks and you Earthbend, let's say 2, it's 4 mana 4/4 that also made it 2/2. That's really good. Moving forward to Badger Mole, again, the all-important 4 power. This is the 5 drop. And when it comes in, Earthbend 2. That's kind of what I was saying Boulder could do, but Badger Mole does it immediately. Then also, creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them have trample. So that's all of your Earthbended lands and some other stuff, maybe. Shared Roots is a lesson rampant growth. 2 mana, lesson, search your library for a basic land, put it on the battlefield, tap it, and shuffle. I don't think this card's necessarily that good in draft. You need lands to be able to Earthbend. You might need it for fixing. I don't know, but it's a lesson, and they just printed rampant growth. So, very interesting. True Ancestry is a 2 mana lesson also. Return a permanent from your graveyard to your hand and make a clue. If you all haven't noticed, I really like clues and I value them highly. This is better than regrowth. I don't know. It only gets permanents back, so you're not getting back removal spells, but you're also getting to draw an extra card, so that's really good. Turtle Duck, I like. It's a 1 mana 0/4, so block the white creatures, block the red creatures. And then pay 3, it becomes a 4/4 with trample. It can turn on your 4 power stuff. It's just as good, you know. You can block with it and pump it and kill stuff, or block with it and not pump it and do some other stuff with the mana. Pillar Launch is a really good combat trick. 1 mana, target creature gets +2/+2 and gains reach and untap it for 1 mana. If you played with Gift of the Viper in Modern Horizons 3, that card was very good. And Pillar Launch isn't quite that card, but it's close. You just get to surprise, untap, and block and kill just again and again and again. If your opponent has 1 green mana up and a creature, just be terrified of Pillar Launch. Rebellious Captives, 2 mana 2/2, perfectly fine floor. Exhaust 6, you know, late game. Put 2 counters on it and Earthbend 2. So it'll be a 4/4 and it'll have a 2/2 hanging out. And they're 1/1 counters, so Badger Mole gives them trample. But at the floor, it's just a 2 mana 2/2, which is fine. So I think that card's very good. Flopsy is a 6 mana 4/4. Ape Goat. Don't know how this has to do with Avatar, but it seems fun. It enters, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Awesome. Just, if that was all it was, that'd be good enough. It includes itself, so it's really a 6 mana 5/5. Each creature you control with power 4 or greater can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. Great upside. Makes it hard for small creatures to... It makes it impossible for small creatures to double block and get some damage. You know, if you just have the biggest stuff, you're just going to beat down and win. Rockalanche, 3 mana sorcery, Earthbend X, where X is the number of forests you control. Let's say it's 3 on turn 3. You turn one of your lands into a 3/3. Okay. And then you can flash it back for 6. Let's say it's 4 or something. So it seems good. I'll have to play with it a little bit. Just something to keep in mind. And it's a lesson. So lesson synergies. Toph is a 3 mana X3. When it enters Earthbend 2. Awesome. If this is a 0/3 and it Earthbends 2 for 3, I think I'm happy. And then its power is equal to the number of 1/1 counters on lands you control. So it's actually a 2/3 for 3 that also makes a 2/2. And if you're making more Earthbendy stuff, this card can get very big. This card is always good value, good rate, trade with both halves. It's awesome. Walltop Sentries is a 3 mana 2/3 with reach and death touch. So good luck attacking through this. And when it dies, if there's a lesson in your graveyard, gain 2 life. Again, good luck attacking through this. I see green as just the over-the-top color with the 5 drops and 6 drops that it wants to cast. This stabilizes and says, hey, attack through this. Just good common in green. The green removal package, Rocky Rebuke, instant speed, bite. Super good. So target creature will deal damage equal to its power to a creature an opponent controls for 2 at instant speed. Really as good as it gets. I don't know if we've had this version printed, but it's nuts. Allies at Last. Affinity for allies. If you're playing green-white, this is probably a 1-drop spell. If it's not, let's say this costs 2, you know. Up to 2 creatures you control deal damage equal to their powers to target creature an opponent controls. It's like Rocky Rebuke, but better. Both of these removal spells seem really good. You have to have a creature in play, but you're just killing your opponent's stuff for 2 mana. Even if you don't have any allies, it seems really good, but there are 67 allies in the set, so you'll probably have some. Last, we have Earth Rumble, Earthbend 2, and when you do, target creature you control fights target creature an opponent controls. So it's not a bite, it's a fight, but it also comes with a 2/2. I think it's fine. I think it's the worst of these. I don't know quite why it costs 4. I feel like it could cost 3. I only say that because these other ones are so aggressively costed. But, I don't know, you can think of this like a Ravenous Chupacabra. But you have to have something big in play, big enough to win a fight. And you have to spend 4. So, interesting, but it leaves behind a 2/2. Green cards I'm excited about. The Earth King, I think is Excellent. It's 4 mana 2/2. When it comes in, make a 4/4. So 6 power, 6 toughness across two bodies for 4 mana is already great. It's a 4/4, so it triggers all your 4 power stuff. And oh, speaking of 4 power stuff, whenever one or more creatures you control with power 4 or greater attack, get that many basic lands and put them on the battlefield tapped. Okay. Deck thinning is kind of not real, except that it is real when you're getting out 6 lands by just attacking with your big creatures. And like I said, it's just 6 power, 6 toughness across 2 bodies for 4 mana. Very good. Badger Mole Cub is the Chase Mythic, I'm pretty sure. 2 mana 2/2. When it comes in, Earthbend 1, and your land creatures tap for an additional green. So it's just good on rate. 2 mana for a 2/2 and a 1/1 kind of. The 1/1 will probably be tapped. And then you can tap it. You know, you can go 2 into 5 or something. Seems really good. Legend of Kyoshi. This one I did include both sides. So 6 mana. Draw cards equal to the greatest power. Let's pretend like it's 4. So 6 mana, draw 4. Fine. Then Earthbend X, where X is the number of cards in your hand. And that land becomes an island. But let's say you have 5 cards in hand because you drew 4 and you drew a card on your next turn. So Earthbend 5. Awesome. And then stage 3, you flip it into a 5/4 that says lands you control have trample and hexproof. And then you can add a whole bunch of mana. So this will win you the game if you're on a stable enough board and you cast this. We got a couple cards with stats to talk about. So Boomy cares about the number of lessons in your graveyard, and Haru cares about when allies enter. There are 11 green allies, so all the ally stuff I've talked about. There are 11 of them. 4 are rare, so there's really only kind of 7. But white has tons of allies. You can make ally tokens. There are 11 green or colorless lessons. So a lot of lessons. I think green blue lessons seems like a good thing to be doing. And as I mentioned a couple times, 67 allies in the set and 35 lessons in the set. Both these cards are very good. So 6 mana 4/4. When it enters, choose X. Let's pretend like you have 2 lessons in your graveyard. So 6 mana 4/4. Put 3 counters on it. So it's actually a 6 mana 7/7 and Earthbend 3. So 6 mana, get 10 power, 10 toughness in play. And that's if you have 2 lessons in the yard. So that seems really good. Haru is a 2 mana 1/1. And whenever another ally enters Earthbend 1, you just get to go super wide here if you have a bunch of allies. And again, with Earthbending, the lands come back if they die. So it's not as big a risk as other ways of animating lands. There's a shrine package in this set, and I think it's pretty bad. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. So Aang's Journey is a lesson, one of the colorless lessons I've talked about. Kicker 2. So for 2, you can search for a basic land to put in your hand. If it's kicked, you can instead go get a land and a shrine, and then you gain 2. So, way to get your shrines assembled. There's 5, 1 in each color. All of them are below rate. All of them, even if, in my opinion, they all count how many shrines you have and then do something equal to that many. All of them, if you had 2 shrines, still would be below rate. They're not good unless you have 3. They're also all legendary, which means you can't just play 3 of one of them in your deck and like trigger, combo, like, oh, I have 3 Southern Air Temples. So now, it triples up. No. So I think they're all pretty bad, but it's a fun deck to build. Try to get all 5, use Aang's Journey and make something fun happen. I'm not going to go too deep into them, but they're hanging around. There are 3 kind of protection spells in the set. In white, it's an instant. It gives it flying, first strike, lifelink, and hexproof for 1. So give something hexproof for 1. Seems good. Just know that this exists. It's a lesson. They're all lessons. So it's a good protection spell in white. In blue, octopus form. +1/+1 and hexproof and on tap. So you can kind of make a good block out of this really easily. So that's scary. Definitely keep this in mind. And it's also protection. Octopus form seems really good. I was talking about it in the blue section, but I moved it here because it does give hexproof. But even without hexproof, +1/+1 on tap just lets you surprise block really easy for 1. And then Origin of Metal Bending for 2, destroy target artifact or enchantment, which seems fine. Or put a 1/1 counter and it gains indestructible. Very fine. Can save your stuff, blow out in combat, or blow up an artifact or enchantment if that's what you need. All of these cards I think are very good. So keep in mind that these colors have protection spells. Moving on to the 2-color pairs, I'm going to go a little faster here. Blue-white kind of just cares about the airbending and going wide, making allies. I think all of these cards are very good. I think Katara might be the best rare in the set, so I'll cover that. It's 5 mana, 3/3. When it enters, make a 1/1. Fine. Waterbend X, creatures you control have base power and toughness XX until end of turn. And that's you can activate that at instant speed. Let's say you attack with 4 creatures. The fact that this costs 5 means that you have 5 mana. This also has vigilance. So you attack with your creatures, you tap it to its own ability and your 5 mana. All your creatures are 6/6s. That's broken. Katara's probably the best rare in the set. All of these cards are good. So yeah, that's what blue-white's getting up to. Green-black cares a lot about the earth bending. Cares about creatures dying and lands dying. So it has one of the better hybrid commons. It's a 3 mana 3/1, and when it dies, Earthbend 2. Just a 3. It trades at 3, and then it has a 2 that comes after it. Lots of earth bending and lots of things to do with your land creatures and with your counters. So that's what black and green is getting up to. I think all these cards are excellent. Moving forward into red-black. Red-black is a lot of firebending. And just like being aggressive and doing good things with your firebending. I think all of these cards are very good. Lots of different ways to add mana. Also, the raid sub-theme. You're definitely just wanting to attack and do things with your mana. I think Cruel Administrator is great. It comes in, hopefully it's a 6/5, and when it attacks, you make more bodies that you can keep attacking with. Red-black seems super aggro, super deal damagey. Very good. I think it might be one of the better things to be doing. Moving on to red-green, I mentioned they care about powers 4 or greater. A bunch of good things. I think Boomy Unleashed might be the best mythic in the set. It's a 5 mana 5/4 when it enters Earthbend 4, so you're just getting tons of power and toughness on the board for 5. And when it deals combat damage to a player, untap all your lands and attack again. And it's a 5/4 with trample, so it's probably going to deal some combat damage to the player. But even if it doesn't, you're just getting so much for 5 mana. Bitter Work lets you draw some cards. The Wrestlers, it's just good on rate. And then Uncle Iroh, Firebending, 4 power for 3, and it makes your lessons cheaper. All of these are just really good. Blue-red is the weakest. There's only one 2-color card that I really thought about talking about, and it's this Dragonfly Swarm. Their theme is really this casting non-creature spells, which I talked about the Serpent and the Porcupine already. But non-creature, non-land cards, put them in your graveyard, do some lessons. Dragonfly Swarm is a good payoff, but I think this has the weakest, build around. But I'll have to see how it goes. The Firebending in the instance in red could make this whole archetype work. We'll have to see. But Dragonfly Swarm is good if you're blue-red. Green-white is allies. Go wide allies. White Lotus Reinforcements, 2/3 Vigilance, buff your team. Awesome. Earth King's Lieutenant, 2 mana 1/1. It's big, equal to how many allies you have. That just, make it a 4/4, make it a 5/5. It's really good. Has trample. Suki is again just power equal to the number of creatures you control, allies or otherwise. And when it attacks, you make more allies. Really pretty simple. Really pretty good. You don't get the water bending upside by playing green-white. with all these creatures, you're not able to use them for water bending, but I think that's okay. Blue-black, I mentioned, cares about drawing 2 cards a turn. There's definitely some synergies in each of the colors individually, but Foggy is the only blue and black card. This is the signpost uncommon. It says, whenever you draw your second card, make a kind of unblockable spirit. It's just a 3 mana 2/4 with lifelink, which is fine, and it might make some more stuff. But that's blue and black's theme. I think if you're playing blue-black, you're going to be playing clues and kind of, good stuff anyway, doing some sacrifice, kill spells, just kind of mid-ranging them out. And then if you're drawing a couple cards a turn, you just get some upside. So I think that's fine to be doing. Going into green-blue, they care about lessons. Lots of lessons in both of the colors. And there's lots of things that, see if there's lessons in your graveyard, see how many lessons are in your graveyard. I think all of these cards are good, and all of them get better if you have lessons. 2 mana 2/3 is fine with Defender, but it can attack if there's a lesson in your graveyard. That seems like a pretty low bar. The Herbalist is a fine mana dork, and it's a great mana dork if you have a lesson in your yard. And then Guru Pathic. We talked about looking at the top 4 to get like a lesson or something, but looking at the top 5, pretty much to find a lesson or saga. Hopefully you're not playing that many shrines. Put in your hand. You should be hitting. Whenever you cast one, put a 1/1 counter on any creature. Card's really good. So moving into white-black, this is the sacrifice sub-theme. I think Hey Bye is really good. When it enters or attacks, you can sacrifice something, put 2 counters on it, and when it leaves, you put all of its counters on something else. That's awesome. The Pox Bearers is a 2 mana 2/1. When it dies, makes a 1/1. Both are allies. That's very relevant. Play this in mono white, honestly, just to get some allies in play, and it's just a good creature, but it's extra good in the white-black combo. Then Tolls of War makes a clue token. I love my clue tokens. Whenever you sacrifice something, make an ally. Again, just cares about sacking. Clues are good. Other ways of sacrificing other things is also good. Red-white, aggro, attack, go wide and get in. All of these cards are excellent. 5 mana 3/1 deals damage to the number of creatures you control to target creatures. So it's 5 mana 3/1 that kills something, and when it dies, you put a 1/1 counter on 2 things. Awesome. Sun Warriors, 3/5 for 4. Awesome. Firebending X, where X is the number of creatures you control. Let's call it 4. Firebending 4 is nuts. And then you can pay 5 and make more stuff. Really, really good. Wandering Musicians, 4 mana 2/5, already fine. When it attacks, all creatures you control get +1/+0, including itself. Amazing. And then I'm just going to throw out some of the really good multicolor cards. Avatar, Aang is broken in limited. 4 mana, obviously 4 different colors. Flying, Firebending 2. Amazing. And then whenever you waterbend, earthbend, firebend, or airbend, draw a card. So when it attacks, you'll firebend at least once, draw a card. If you have other you can play this on 4 with 2 cards with firebending in play, attack with both of them, draw 2 cards. Insane. And then if you've done all 4 this turn, transform it. You're not going to do all 4. Maybe if you're playing all the colors because you're casting this card, you are. But if you see this pack 1, pick 1, draft it and figure it out. There's some fixing that we'll get to, but insanely powerful if you can play it. Toph in green and red and white. At the beginning of your end step, Earthbend 2. Really good. And then your non-token artifacts are lands. You probably won't have too many of those, but end step, Earthbend 2. Do that twice, you just start starting to build a board. Iroh, Grand Lotus. 6 mana 5/5, Firebending 2, and then it gives all your stuff flashback, which is super good. So cast all your lessons again, cast all your non-lessons again. Your lessons now only cost 1 from your graveyard. You just do some really good stuff, and it's already fine on rate. Then Sokka, it's a 4 mana 3/3 with Menace Prowess, fine. Other allies you control have Menace and Prowess, which is nuts. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, make a 1/1 ally. So it's like Monastery Mentor. It's making more creatures that have Menace and Prowess as long as this is still around. But yeah, play this. Next turn, attack, cast 2 non-creature spells. All of your things are huge. They all have Menace. Really good. Going into lands, there's a mono color land cycle. The size is how good I think they are. So the green one, you can pay 3 and Earthband 2, only as a sorcery, but still fine late game. Just spit out some 2/2s. Abandoned Air Temple, I think, is the best one. 4 mana, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Do it whenever you want. What? That's a fine rate if that's just a card. But you put that on a land, you can do it again and again and again at instant speed. Really just really good. Abandoned Air Temple is the best of these. The black one, you can pay 4 and make a 1/1 that can't block or be blocked. Fine. You know, late game, just make a 1/1, make a 1/1, make a 1/1, put a clock on them. The blue one lets you loot. Fine. It's better in older formats, I think. But, you know, late game, draw land, loot it away, draw some action. Then the red one, you pay 2, and target creature gets firebending 4. But you're really paying 3 because it's 2 and tap this. So you're like ramping. You are ramping, but you're doing it in combat. So maybe it's better than I give it credit for. Might be good in non-draft formats, but in draft I think it's the worst of these. Still fine. Play it if you're playing red, you know. Super low opportunity cost. If you control a basic land, it comes in untapped. You should have basic lands in limited. I didn't throw all 10 of these up there, but these are the lands in the set, the dual lands. There's all 10. They enter tapped and tap for either color, and you can pay 4 and sack it to draw a card. Fine. They're just good duels. You know, they're better than Guild Gates because they have another ability on them, but it'll help you play 2 colors in, you know, any combination. Play your avatar Aang by drafting some of these duels. And then there are 4 non-colored lands that are worth talking about. Jasmine Dragon Tea Shop. You can pay 5 and make an ally. That's fine late game. And then it taps for only ally colors. You know, that's okay. Treat it kind of as a colorless land that you can make creatures with later. Secret Tunnel is maybe the best land in the set in limited. Can't be blocked, which is an interesting ability to be on a land. But if you earthbend it, you know, earthbend this 3. You now have a 3/3 unblockable. And then you can also pay 4 and tap it. 2 target creatures that share a creature type can't be blocked. 2, you know, forests. You know, those are creatures. 2 allies. 2 humans. You know, just start getting in. It's like Rogue's Passage, but double. White Lotus Hideout taps for any color to add lesson or a shrine. I'm not super excited about that, but you can pay 1 and tap and add a mana of any color. That I'm a little more excited about. I think the land's fine. And then Rumble Arena adds Vigilance again, so if you earthbend it up, you now have a Vigilance land. When it enters Scry 1, also fine. It just taps for colorless, so it's fine. And then it also has that filter where you can pay 1 and tap and add 1 mana of any color. So that is my avatar video. I'll leave on the front. But that's my complete draft guide. I suspect red is going to be the best color by pairing with white, pairing with black, pairing with blue. Just like pairing with all the things seems really good. I think blue might be the best color by itself. I think blue-white, waterbending, going wide seems really good. I think red-white, just attacking a lot seems really good. But I think white's cards by itself don't seem that powerful. It's really when you're pairing it with the other stuff going on where it gets good, which makes for a good draft environment. I've heard good things. I'm excited. I don't, you know, relate to any of the characters. No nostalgia. I have not seen the show, but I think the set looks really good as far as mechanics, and that's what I care about. So if you made it this far, please like the video and leave a comment. I'm sure I missed stuff. I didn't talk about everything that there is to talk about in this set. I have not drafted it yet, so leave a comment. Let me know how your drafts go for you. I said I was going to do a mock draft at the end, but this video is already over an hour and 20 minutes long, pretty much, so I'm just going to call it. Good luck with your drafting, and thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.